Welcome, listeners, to the podcast of the Living Zombie. Okay, I think that's... Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I get like a random error message, which I don't think means anything. Because it says it didn't start recording, but it did start recording. It's just trying to ruin my intro,
I also
Zencaster.
don't see an error message. So
No, yeah, it was just on my end, and it seems to be working fine. So, welcome, listeners,
okay.
to the podcast of the Living Zombie, back for Halloween season, October 2023. I guess we're kind of finishing up what our block from last year, because it didn't get to the Return of the Living Dead Part 2 last year. Just a issue. Yeah, there was just me and Curtis got busy toward the end of the month, and we never got around to it. Yeah, just that's how it happens sometimes. We would have gotten it out later that year, but it ended up being pretty busy. Curtis is doing quite well. Check out his Prairie View Productions, and this is just the fact of the matter. I got Cody with me for this one.
Yeah, I'm definitely not Curtis, which is weird because like normally I have October pretty much off in terms of like podcasting stuff, and this is I think the first time I've done a live show for October in like almost since we started the second podcast.
Okay, yeah. Well, you did the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead with me.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is part of this.
which
So
is really like basically the first zombie movie that I did on this podcast,
yeah.
which is kind of ironic because it's probably one of the newest ones compared to what we're doing nowadays. It's like
Oh yeah, and speaking of which, you're probably doing Army of the Dead with me.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that so yeah, we're finishing up the stuff from last week. We're doing Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And yeah, this is getting into zombie territory in that none of the writing directing cast is coming back. We have lost George Russo, who did the story for the first Return of the Living Dead, who was on Night of the Living Dead. So yeah, we have no DNA from Night of the Living Dead in this franchise now, which leaves the of the Dead franchise the last one standing. But yeah, so to catch you up to speed, and Cody up to speed because he didn't see the first one. This is the podcast of the Living Zombie. We're a Night of the Living Dead fan cast where we uh, explore all the movies that descended from the Night of the Living Dead. So, Return of the Living Dead is a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, which is a descendant based upon the writer Joe Russo, who wrote Night of the Living Dead. He made the story for Return of the Living Dead, which was a 1985 film, which did quite a long ways after Night of the Living Dead. And then 3 years after that movie came out, we got Return of the Living Dead Part 2, because horror sequels sell pretty well.
That's actually kind of
Yeah.
what I was trying to segue into here. So one of the financial backers of this uh put all of his money into this. Basically, he had the money to basically fund this whole thing, and he did it. And he did it based on the success of the Friday the 13th, and this like completely bombed at the box office. So hopefully that guy's doing okay because
What are our
he
numbers
just
here?
lost probably. I want to say it was 3 million, and it made back like 6 or 9, but I could be wrong.
Okay, it says $6 million budget on a $9.2 million box office, which yeah, that's about $3 million short of profit. So yeah, they lost a bit of money on this. Yeah, they lost about, because you need to double your money. off your budget, and so that's about 3/4. Yeah, they made about 3/4 of the money back.
And I mean, the way I look at it is, he was the producer of the original film, which had a $3 million budget, and it made $14.2 million back at the box office. So he's probably like somewhat in a little bit of a I don't know what the term is, rainfall of like cash at this point in time, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna produce
Yeah,
the next one too," and then it completely went in and bombed.
I
Um,
I'm
and
trying
I
to
think
think
this might
back
be
to the
the lowest
original.
score I've ever
Yeah,
holds on Rotten Tomatoes, sitting at 5%
yeah, this is a 5 on Rotten Tomatoes. That's
out of
harsh, I
100.
feel.
To put that
Yeah,
into like
5%.
clarity, out of 100. So,
I feel that's harsh.
but I mean, it spawned two other, like I think two other sequels, or
Yeah,
maybe
I
even
think there's
three
at
other
least two
sequels
more.
after this. So,
Um,
mhm.
yeah, I can maybe figure this out. I don't want to spend time figuring out how many sequels are. I have a chart that my friend Brett made me about all the movies like he knew that spawned from this. And I know, and that chart is incomplete, but I think there's at least 4 Return of the Living Deads. I need to go get the chart, and it's on the other side of the room in my big novelty popcorn bucket. But yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think of this because it's that you said $3 million budget on the first one. I'm trying to think of how they doubled the budget.
And
I
maybe
wonder if that's
I'm just going off the Wikipedia numbers. So, I mean, if there's any form of discrepancy, I don't fully.
oh, could
Uh,
be. Could maybe they just paid, maybe it's all in acting, or I don't know.
so yeah, it goes the Return of the Living Dead, the Return of the Living Dead Part 2, Return of the Living Dead 3, Return of the Living Dead Necropolis, and Return of the Living Dead Rave to the Grave. So that's 5
Yeah, I think that's,
sequels.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, and it also says on the Wikipedia is the first of 4 sequels to Return of the Living Dead. Yeah.
so unless there's like more that's outside of what's
Yeah, I
potentially like the Living
don't
Dead
think so.
film series,
Yeah.
which really makes me beg the question. So let me get this straight. Basically, what happens in the first film? I'm assuming,
Mhm.
because if this is a sequel, because it's Return of the Living Dead and then Return of the Living Dead Part 2. So that means it's not really like its own standalone series, like a own standalone movie.
Okay,
Like,
so
is there any storyline that's like a continuation from the original first film,
okay, so here's the
or is it
continuation.
its own standalone thing?
Okay, so here's the thing.
Okay.
The character Colonel Glover, who's the military guy you see in some points of this, like the guy that they try to call for that works for the military in this, um, he is
Hmm.
also in the last one, doing pretty well the same thing. Yeah, he is
Okay.
also, yeah, he is the guy from the government that is in charge of dealing with outbreaks of the zombie chemical in these movies. Um, he is the only returning character in the movie. He's not the only returning actor, but the returning actors, I think they got back one of the zombie actors from the original from the first one, and also I think Thom Matthews and James Karen, they were in the original but playing different characters, which is super weird. They were just really impressed with these are the in this movie they're the grave diggers, the grave robbers.
Hmm.
In the first one, they're in that playing some guys that are in charge of like a medical supply company, and they basically do the same thing in that movie. Like they get infected with zombie stuff, and we get to see the zombie virus progress with them. So they're doing basically the same
Okay.
thing, but with different characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like this takes place in the same universe, and like in this as the last one, but they are totally
So
separate
my
events.
okay, so my general assumption was like the thread that connected them to was at least the military. So in the first film, the military finds this virus, contains it, and then is trying to transport it. And then, uh, as you see later on in the film, it falls off the truck onto into a river, which people eventually find and then start uh, causing like a zombie apocalypse to start happening. I don't even know if I'd call this like apocalypse at this point in time, but I'm not
Small scale
100% sure on
disaster,
how this.
zombie
Yeah,
based disaster.
it's probably
Yeah.
the best way to describe it. So
Yeah, this is about as bad. This is like having a bad hurricane, like in scale. Like this is like
yeah,
I think the death toll is like in this one certainly not the last one in the previous one a lot more people die.
yeah, it's fair.
Yeah,
But am I safe in assuming that that's the thread that kind of connects the two films?
yeah, so the branch of the military we see in this is like so that phone number that was on the zombie chemical barrel, that same phone number's on a barrel in the first one. They just come across it in a different fashion. The zombie the barrel full of zombie stuff in the first one just kind of like accidentally got shipped to this medical supply company, and they'd just been holding on to it for years. In this one, it's the army's pure fuck up, or like a more direct fuck up of the army, and it just falls off their truck while they're transporting it from one place to the other.
Yeah, this is basically because these guys don't know how to do normal like army formation, right?
Yeah, no, they don't
Like,
do
do
it
you
great.
not normally in the army, do you not normally have like a follow-up truck that just follows behind all the transportation vehicles to make sure that nothing falls out of the transportation vehicles? Like,
Yeah, you'd think. Um, I don't know.
like, am I just fucking crazy and thinking that like it's basically basic like level of incompetency that like
Yeah, it's been a couple years since Nom. Maybe they're just rusty. But yeah, I mean, in the
maybe
first
they're
one,
reserve troops.
go ahead.
Saying that maybe they're just reserve troops that like don't actually follow. This guy's getting stoned in his military vehicle, and it causes it to fall out. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some army guy would probably make a joke about motor pool here, but yeah,
I yeah, I've
yeah,
got no clue what you're talking
yeah.
about. So
Oh, I think murder pool. The motor pool is like military talk for the guys that like run the trucks and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, because a lot of army stuff
okay, fair enough.
revolves around like driving trucks, actually. Yeah, and like I guess the only other further background is that essentially in this one, like in these movies, the essentially their explanation is that the movie Night of the Living Dead was a like adaptation of a true event, which was financed by, which was like based on like another outbreak of the same zombie material, and they just like changed everything. Mostly like yeah, you may have noticed in this movie the zombies are invincible.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of waiting for a couple of shots of rain to eventually happen, and just yeah, nothing really
Yeah,
like short
yeah,
of
no,
like them being blown up. Essentially, they're still functioning. So
yep, yeah. Return of the Living Dead zombies.
which
This is I mean, still weirdly one of the more consistent zombie franchises I explore on this project is these Return of the Living Dead zombies are totally immortal and invincible, and they will keep going to the best of their abilities until they are utterly destroyed. It's to such a point that like at the end of the previous one, like they nuked an entire city to keep it from spreading. This is the zombies from spreading.
Yeah, but like, if we're going based on like uh Dragon Ball Z scale, in my opinion, like if you were to burn these things, then they would cease to stop existing. But I mean, I could
Ooh.
be wrong.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing.
Like,
That's also a
wouldn't
thing that
fire
came up in the
just do it
previous
rather
movie.
than nuking it?
Yeah, nuking it actually worked better because in the previous movie, they at first the outbreak of the zombie stuff had only like infected like a couple zombies, a couple four of them or whatever,
Mhm.
and they just the two characters from the supply company just like chopped them up real good, and their idea was to put them into an incinerator, but the zombie ashes went into the atmosphere and then rained down on a graveyard, and that's how that went south. So yeah, you shouldn't be disposing of these zombies by burning.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a thing.
So I would have just probably killed me and every single zombie survivor I have with me at that point in time
Oh yeah,
by
yeah, that's what
doing like
happened in
the
the last one. Yeah.
logical, reasonable thing. Okay.
Also, that's a plot
Well,
point that as me and Curtis found out, that Zombie 3 had full on ripped off from the previous movie. So that was
that's kind of cool.
yeah, that was super weird. Like we watched Return of the Living Dead the first time we did this, and then and then last year we watched Zombie 3 and we're like, they just totally ripped that off, didn't they? So yeah, that was a thing. So,
So one other question I guess I have to ask you before you, what does this like film series contribute to like the what we would at least consider traditional zombie lore? Because technically they're not zombies, they're reanimated corpse up until they become zombies, because you can still pass the virus from zombie to person. But yeah, the original zombies
the big one
are just reanimated corpse.
as far as I can tell is brains. Yeah, like as far as I can tell,
Okay,
these guys came up with like zombies eat brains.
fair. Which is one of the zombie lores that I've never like fully understood.
Yeah, this is the movie where that's a big thing. You watch the rest of them and like it's all like they go for the gut and like rip out the entrails and whatnot. But this movie's like, yeah, they eat brains and like moan brains and
Huh.
stuff. But yeah, I think that's one of the big ones. I think the big difference between this one and the last one is this one's more comedic. The last one gets
Because that's what I want with my
yeah,
horror films.
yeah. I mean, okay, so the previous one is like dark. Like it's a comedy, but it is dark in points. Which if you found like here's my full recommendation. If you found that like Return of the Living Dead 1 was like too rough for you, yeah, watch this one. You'll probably have an easier time with it. And yeah, if you found that if you're reserved about like watching the sequel because you found the first one too dour, you can watch this one. You'll have a better time because yeah, this is a comedy franchise. Unless they stop doing comedy in some of the later ones, but I'm not sure. I haven't gotten that far. Yeah, this is a lot more of a comedy. I think it does pretty well, but we'll get into the full movie here. So yeah, we open the movie as Cody was talking about earlier to an army convoy with showing some loosely tied barrels of zombie material in the back of a military truck, which steadily ends up making its way off the back of the truck as the driver is smoking weed. Which, yeah, you'd think the army of the '80s would have had a little bit more discipline. Although maybe that's entirely typical. If you're in the if you were in the army in the mid '80s, sound off in the comment section. Uh, that gladly share your stories. See how much you believe this. But yeah, this barrel of zombie stuff, similar to the one we saw in the last one, falls into a river and ends up in a little culvert downriver. We end up being cut to this place is part of the water up from the water supply of a bit of a suburb, like one of those suburbs that's like way on the edge of the edge of town. That's like actually some of the houses we see in this suburb are like under construction, so this is a pretty new development. We see this one our main character. Who is his name? Okay, this is annoying because the cast list is not in order. It shows the two returning actors first instead of okay, yeah, it's Jesse played by Mental Kenworthy, a actor who is 13 at the time, or 12 or 13 at the time of making this movie. So this R-rated horror movie, stars a 13-year-old. He's also known for being in a bunch of Shreddies commercials.
I've been muted this whole time.
What's that?
Okay, that's I said, "Oh, I've been muted this whole time." Yeah, I yelled out the name, and it reminds me of children yelling at Dora because you didn't respond to me at
Oh,
all. Yeah. So I was just saying that I knew who it was, but yeah, I don't know what else this kid went on to do with his life
yeah, I'm looking
before.
at it. This is probably his big film because he was only a child actor, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was also in like a bunch of pilots.
Hmm.
That they tried putting him in stuff, just none of it ever broke through. I think he does, for what it's worth. I think he does as good a job as any child actor could have been expected to do. I think he's actually one of the
Yeah.
better.
Fair enough.
I think he does one of the better members of this this character archetype. I think he does pretty well.
Hmm.
Like this character has a bit of a character arc and all that. It's like he does. I think he's a pretty consistent character. He does some all right acting. He's not nearly as annoying as as you're thinking. Like I'm describing, like, oh, this is a horror movie that
Hmm.
stars a little kid, and you're like, but he does really good. He's probably maybe the
Yeah.
best, like outside of like a serious movie. Like I wouldn't like put him up against like someone from like The Exorcist or like the kid from The Exorcist, but I probably put him against the kid from which Friday the 13th starred a kid? Any of those horror sequels that star a kid. You know the one. Because I think I'm describing a plot of a Friday the 13th movie, a and a Halloween movie. I think I'm doing both there, but I can't remember for sure.
The most recent I can think of is like Cocaine Bear, and one that we've actually done on the podcast. We did Toy Soldier, so they're
Eh,
kind of generally the same movie at this point.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, no, he does pretty well. So yeah, the kid
I
is
mean,
apparently
compared
being.
to even
Go ahead.
the other two, the two bullies in this film, this kid's kind of a superstar.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's almost a shame this didn't get him more points. Really, he probably could. He probably, I'd say he probably earned a TV show if he wanted one. No, so he is apparently dealing with some bullies. I guess he owes them a comic book, so he gives them like an issue of Spider-Man he has, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're in the club. We're gonna go head to the our clubhouse, which happens to be in a graveyard." And they're wandering around, and they find the zombie barrel in the in like this culvert, and they accidentally, in the process of it, like cause a leakage. And the two little boy and the two bullies get sprayed with gas, which is yeah, a death sentence. These two children are going to die. So the death count is definitely two so far. But yeah. Yeah, yeah, when I think about it, I don't think the death toll in this one gets nearly as high, mostly because like this town doesn't get nuked at the end. So yeah, that's kind of a good sign right there. But yeah, we'll get into that a bit more later. So yeah, this bus opens up. They they see the little phone number that's on the side of all these barrels, which is the one like smart thing the military did here is they just like, okay, if you find one of these, call this number. So the boy Jesse wants to call the number immediately, but the bullies are like, no, don't do that, and they lock him inside a what's the word for it? Not catacomb. Is it catacomb? Mausoleum. They lock him inside a
Uh,
mausoleum in this graveyard.
Mausoleum, yeah.
Yeah. So they lock him inside this mausoleum to keep him from telling any adults. Which, yeah, either they're planning to kill this kid or they didn't think too far ahead. So, yeah, that's a problem. So he's in there until it turns out a couple grave robbers, played by our old friends James Karen and Thom Matthews, show up to this graveyard with Thom is playing a character named Joey. James Karen is playing a character named Ed. Joey's girlfriend is there with him, and she waits in the van while they go off into the graveyard to do some grave robbing. I guess somebody wants like human heads, like skulls. And they're all yeah. I can't say why they're doing that because I don't know.
Money,
Yeah,
jewelry, mostly.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they point out that they're just keeping the jewelry.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know who just wants the skulls.
Medical students most likely,
I
but
guess,
I
but you
could
can
be
get
wrong.
those nowadays.
Apparently, apparently this yeah, apparently this was like a bigger issue in like the early like 1800s when people were still doing like medical experimentation. Grave robbing was the thing.
Yeah, see our Victor Frankenstein episode.
Oh, that's probably who I was talking to about it.
Yeah,
'Cause I mean, I wouldn't rob from the dead because that's like bad juju, but I can see why people do it.
yeah. It's just a weird thing,
Probably
contrivance.
fairly profitable.
I guess. They're also like getting like the heads of like people who've been dead for 30 years at this point. I think the first grave we see them robbing is saying it's from like 1958. This movie takes place in 1985, so that's about 30 years. So yeah, it's a big old really rotten head. But
My
yeah,
question is when do people stop growing hair as a
I
corpse?
don't know.
Because the amount of hair in this film is like kind of shocking for people who are supposed to be dead for like 300
Yeah,
years. So
yeah, I couldn't tell you. Yeah, so this, like the previous film, involves like them rising a bunch of zombies from a graveyard. Although this film, it's just because the mist is spreading in this like riverside graveyard. Our grave robbing friends wander their way into this mausoleum, and they happen upon Jesse, who's in this mausoleum, and they chase him off as just like some kid who's like messing around in a graveyard, and he can't question that because he is
Yeah, but
just messing around in the graveyard. It's just like, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here either. But I'm an adult, so I mean,
especially if Jesse like came up upon the two grave robbers that are just mutilating this corpse, it'd be kind of hard to for them to try and explain their way out of it.
yeah, but they come across him, and like for all Jesse knows, this guy, he's in the tomb with like their aunt or something, and they're here visiting grandma or something,
Uh,
and yeah.
with wire cutters and a decapitated corpse, I'd
Well, no, they find Jesse before they do any of that, and they have all
also
their
there's
stuff
a
in like a
stick in this
bag.
door and they don't question it.
Yeah, I mean they got to be locked somehow.
I mean, if all of them were locked, this probably wouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah, yeah, true. Although I don't know if this is, I don't know the legal status of the cemetery and how well it's being upkeeped. But anyway, so yeah, they start doing that. Jesse goes straight back home, and we are introduced to his sister, Brenda. Right? That's yeah. Lucy is the other one, I think. Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
Brenda was the person who's driving the van. I thought she was
Um,
the grave robber, like Joey's. Nope. Jesse's. Yeah, Joey's the grave robber. Jesse's the kid. Lucy is the sister. Brenda is the girlfriend of the
okay, yeah,
truck
I got that
driver or the
backwards.
grave robber.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. So he comes home. His sister Lucy's babysitting. The parents are out. He ends up going to his room. They do brother and sister stuff. So yeah, this is all happening as in the background. The gas is slowly poison like infecting the entire graveyard. Jesse's reading some like doing some homework, but he ends up reading a Masterman comic book published by Fun Comics. I guess maybe these are the guys that are being like maybe more Fun Comics is aping these guys. Just like yeah, this company has Fun Comics. The guys that make Mastermans. We're gonna have more Fun Comics here at DC. And we're gonna publish. Oh, who is more Fun Comics? I forget who was what stuff got published in more Fun Comics. Yeah, we're gonna have
This
more
is my
Fun
new.
Comics, and we're gonna beat like Masterman with our characters like the Spectre and what's his name, Doctor Fate.
This
Yeah.
is my new business plan. I'm looking for investors for my new product called More Frosted Flakes.
Also, apparently had Superboy stories in it. Yeah.
Oh, this
Huh.
is an actual company. This wasn't just fucked around
No,
with.
I was
Okay.
no, I was making fun of because fun the this fake Masterman comic they have in this series. It has like a bit in the corner saying it's made by Fun Comics, and there was a famous comic book like line called More Fun Comics that DC Comics made, which yeah was where they did a bunch of like Spectre and Doctor Fate and I guess Superboy. Also Green
Huh.
Arrow, Aquaman. Oh yeah, I guess probably Aquaman's what I was thinking of. Johnny Quick. I don't know who Johnny Quick is. Um,
Not a clue.
yeah, I think he's like a proto Flash or something. Anyway, yeah, no, that was sorry. That joke was being too obscure. Uh, so
Unless you grew up in the 1980s, 1990s.
I mean that was more of a joke about the 1940s, but
Oh,
if you're like a comic book nerd who knows like where a bunch of B and C tier DC characters got first debuted. That's where the
mhm.
joke is for. But yeah, because he's watching this thing about Master Man, where Master Man, the fictional hero in this, is also struggling with this evil barrel full of poison gas, and he goes over to the bully's house, who lives next door. These all kids live right next to each other. I think this is like the cul-de-sac kids club. So yeah, he goes over to the main bully and says, "Hey, we need to tell somebody about this." And the bully's just like, "No, don't you dare! Or I'm gonna go beat you up." Of course, at this time, the bully is deadly sick. He is displaying symptoms that we saw in the first movie, where his body dies, but he stays conscious. Like, although thankfully they never quite do it as gruesomely as they do in the previous film. Yeah, so the bully is getting sicker, but this thankfully doesn't result in like Jesse keeping it in. He ends up sneaking out and grabbing making like a makeshift hazmat suit out of like coveralls and like a dust mask, and goes to find the phone number on the side of the barrel, where he's confronted with this movie's version of the Tar Zombie, the iconic the iconic zombie from the previous one. This one I don't know is good, but it still kind of looks pretty cool. Also, he's not in it for very long. Uh, Jesse manages to maneuver his way behind the zombie, who wanders up to the edge of this cul-de-sac, which is quite high up in the air, and Jesse shoves the zombie off the side of the cul-de-sac, the tar zombie off the side of the cul-de-sac, and then runs home, getting tripped by zombies, which are starting to rise from the graves. Which, yeah, um, so yeah, it's doing a lot of the stuff the last one did, but in slightly different ways, which is kind of nice. It's kind of a nice way of doing a more of the same thing sequel. At this point, we cut back to the grave robber's girlfriend, who has apparently been sitting in this van for hours. It's now dark out, and she notices a couple zombies wandering about the graveyard, and does this pretty on time with the two grave robbers finding out that the zombies in the mausoleum are coming back to life. So yeah, they meet up and end up running away. Notably, they also have uh, zombie head in the bag or a head in the bag from when they were grave robbing, which will become relevant later for obvious reasons. Jesse tries to call the army, but the phone line gets cut before he can talk to them. Like he gets on the line, but the phone lines get cut by the zombies. Before this, there had been a boy who came to the house to go fix their television system. He is a he is a young adult from the community who used to go to school with Jesse's sister. They're going to be the romantic subplot of the movie. The grave robbers do get their van back, and they drive into the suburbs to go do stuff, and they end up running over a zombie, and that's where their van gets disabled. Yeah, I think they end up running into the phone line. Is how that works. It's also kind of neat, like a kind of interesting point with this movie. See, after I had seen it when I was watching it the first time last year, they it was always really tense when Jesse was calling the military, because when they call the military in the last one, that results in all the main characters getting nuked. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a good bit of tension. But yeah, I suppose that's a bit of context you don't really have because you didn't see the first one, but it was very.
No.
But yeah, that's kind of a every time he's calling the thing, I'm just every time he was calling the army in the first one, I was like, oh god, they're all going to die when this phone call gets through.
Mhm.
but they weirdly don't go that direction, but we'll get into that. So, yeah, after the grave robbers come back into town screaming and fuck up the phone lines, they wander into Jesse's family's home and find Jesse, his sister, and that boy. They're just standing in there. I did call this guy a young adult earlier, but he's literally, like, I think in universe 19 tops. So yeah, his sister's in high
Mhm.
school. But yeah. So it's like, I think worst case scenario, a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old. Anyway, moving on because it wasn't really that important. So yeah, this is causing a bit more problems. Some zombies start wandering into the house. They fight them off. It's very difficult fighting these zombies off because they are completely invincible. They have several points in this where they break open these zombies' heads and they keep moving. They end up pinning one of them to a wall with a screwdriver, and then the head in the grave robber's bag comes back to life, and they have to throw it out. So yeah, these zombies are pretty scary, and they start trying to run off. They end up going to a neighbor's house and grabbing his classic car. The neighbor being this elderly doctor who ends up coming with them, and they end up going into town to find the hospital after some issues. We see another family get swarmed by zombies, but yeah, there's a lot of survivors in this movie. Not nearly as much as in the last one. Especially, I always feel weird calling them survivors, because it's really not the survivors. It's the people. It's the group with some survivors in it, and most of these people will die sometimes. Although, not, I guess no. I mean, only of the main cast are uh, the grave robber's girlfriend, the brother, Jesse and his sister, the boy, and the doctor. So yeah, it's not a terrible death count on these guys because four of them live of the seven. We get two side characters who get introduced later that do end up dying, but no, yeah, not a huge death count on that one. Count on this one. So like, yeah, there's only like five, six people that end up actually like confirmed dying. A lot of these people, I think, are like from the cemetery. Oh, I guess more like eight because I forgot those two children.
I don't know if they were ever named or not. Like, that's how I would classify, like, a movie survivor is whether or not the character was named. Did you catch any of their names? Am I just missing?
Oh yeah, I think they were mentioned. I just can't remember. I yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. No, I have to keep like I get like this if this show has taught us anything, I need to have like the cast list sitting right next to me at all times, and all but the most like intensely memorized circumstances.
Mhm.
But yeah, which yeah, I bring this up because I think there were probably over a dozen survivors in the last movie, or like a dozen cast members in the last movie, and this cast is like very small compared to that,
Yeah.
especially like in terms of like characters who have lines. But yeah, I don't think there were too many characters in the last one who were just like three-line characters. Like, I think bully number the less important bully only gets a few lines. That couple in the cul-de-sac who dies pretty quickly, they only have a few lines. There's a couple of soldiers later that only have a few, but yeah, yeah, not as robust a cast list in this one, I'll say.
Which I think is good. I think that at least I have a better feeling for the characters rather than somebody just, like, dying off screen and them never actually being any, important level of, like, character, so
Yeah, I mean, there's that, but also in the last one, like with the larger cast in the last one, like I didn't know who was going to live through that movie. Like that was kind of one of the
Yeah.
charms of that, because all those characters were reasonably fleshed out,
Mhm.
which doesn't work as much in this one because it's more of a it's more of a comedy. But yeah, I think that's a strength they've kind of given up there. But I think this movie's okay either way. But so they get to the hospital after breaking into their after Jesse and them break into their grandparents' house and borrow some of their grandfather's firearms. It's also revealed at this point that Jesse's sister is a crack shot, like has won a bunch of shooting competitions and whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. It's kind of neat having her be the gun person, even though there's not much you can do with guns in this situation. Guns are pretty useless.
Yeah.
She's the only one that really manages to kill a zombie with a gun, though. I'll say that. Although I think that's maybe more choice of firearm than anything. But we'll get to that soon. So they wander about the hospital. Jesse also they had given Jesse like a small pellet gun or whatever, maybe like a 22 caliber rifle. But Jesse had gone out of his way to sneak off with a big cowboy revolver. Yeah.
Which is kind of dumb because, like, they don't even take everything that's currently in this cabinet.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Like, they hand guns off to, like, 2 of the main characters and then just kind of leaves. So,
Yeah, this is the thing about this character. Like, he does things that are like irresponsible because he's a kid, but they're not strictly dumb things for the most part.
mm,
Yeah, like there's maybe one scene like he wanders off a bunch, but he wanders off to do like valid things. There's maybe one moment where he wanders off and you're not given a valid explanation. But for the most part, like he wanders off to go get the phone number from the barrel. He wanders off to go try the intercom in the hospital. And sometimes this gets him into trouble, but it was trying to do something productive.
that's fair.
Which is kind of why I find this character a bit more endearing than a lot of child lead characters in these sort of movies. Because he's not like they're not trying to portray him as too smart either. Like he does get himself into trouble, but
Mhm.
he is like as competent as you can expect from like a real kid.
Yeah, that's a fair take on the
Yeah.
character.
They find some gun. They try to do some examinations. The old man that with him, it's revealed now that he is a doctor, and he examines Ed and Joey. Was that their names? Ed and Joe, I
Yep.
think.
The
Yep.
old guy and
Yeah,
the
Ed and
grave
Joey.
robber, yeah, I think
Yep.
that's correct.
Ed and Joey, since they were exposed to zombie stuff, are starting to show some symptoms of dying because they kind of got some indirect exposure. Which is again like sort of bit for bit for what happened in the last movie with these two actors. For the record, that's not as rough as it maybe could be. It maybe be a little it may come across a little used up if you like watch these two movies back to back, but I didn't really watch them back to back, so it doesn't really bother me too bad.
And the one main character there is Tom Matthews, right?
Thom Matthews, yeah.
Yeah, he goes on to play in Friday the 13th, some of the later films. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the definition of that is. Because I know when it's a female lead, they're called scream queens on screen. So I don't know if males get the same level of title in terms of being like only shown in horror films.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that male actors have managed to develop that sort of reputation. Um but yeah, so the doctor eventually goes over Ed and Joey and find the grave robbers and finds out that they are exhibiting all the common signs of being dead. They don't go
Mhm.
into nearly as much detail as they do in the last one, which I found to be a bit much. But this one, they just kind of like, oh yeah, he's got rigor mortis. His heart isn't beating. He's all cold. But yeah, this is yeah, they reveal that they're sort of dead, and yeah, the doctor does a little bit of a biopsy of something or other, which doesn't look good. But yeah, they don't really know what to do with them. And eventually, the gravediggers and the girlfriend will run off to go die somewhere. Joey and Ed end up turning after they encounter a military checkpoint. Ed gets out of the car and ends up fully turning and attacking an army officer, and then Joey and the girlfriend end up running off, and Joey ends up fully turning into a zombie and eating Brenda's brain. Which yeah, he always liked to he pointed out in some interview material that like, yeah, oh yeah, this time I got to eat the girl's brains because it was a little bit differently last time. Um, but yeah, it's a scene.
I like how that's just
Yeah,
your description of it. Like, yeah, this is a scene that existed in this film. Like,
yeah.
that
I
could be
feel
basically said about any movie.
again like they did this sort of thing in the previous movie, but I feel like they did it a lot better. Like I like this movie. I'm standing up for it a little
Okay, fair
bit.
enough.
But mostly because like the general opinion of it is so low. But I genuinely think the previous one did a lot of things better. Like there was a scene
Mhm.
very similar to this that the actors in that just act the absolute shit out of. And it gets a lot more mind you, that movie's a bit more dramatic than this one. The previous one's a lot more horror slash comedy, where this is definitely like a horror comedy.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's how their story ends. The siblings, the TV repairman, and the doctor end up hijacking an ambulance. They go to the police station, don't find any noticing, and find anyone. At this point, they start to notice that they've gone out from this suburb into the town proper and have found nobody. And it's revealed that there has been a military evacuation of the town.
That they just missed, I guess.
Um, okay, like yeah, that's an interpretation, but also okay. Again, I've seen the last one where the military nuked an entire city to stop the spread of the zombies. My theory is the suburb was just so much more closer to the contamination zone that they were just going to kill everyone inside that contamination zone, and
Okay,
that the
that's
yeah
yeah,
yeah, and that the and like that and so like the military had just ridden off everyone in that suburb as a lost asset. Like those people are fucked.
okay,
We can't save them. Which is totally in keeping with what happened in the last movie.
fair enough.
So yeah, the four of them end up driving this ambulance toward the outside of town, where they're met with a military checkpoint and a bunch of barbed wire blocking off this bridge out of town. They start communing with the military, and the military starts shooting at them, and they have to drive off. Which again, if you've seen the last movie, you know they're absolutely deadly serious about they will kill all four of these people. So they have to come up with a different plan.
Mhm.
They gather their thoughts. We have the one scene where the kid kind of runs off for no reason, and he ends up having to run away a good bit. But they end up finding him again and saying, the boy, what is his name again? Because I haven't said his
Jesse.
name. No, not Jesse. The TV repair guy. Tom.
Oh, I have no fucking clue.
I think it's Tom.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Tom. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm just going off the age here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Dana Ashbrook playing Tom. He just says, "Look, kid, we need to work
Yeah,
together," and they've developed a plan.
they also don't like, to Kyle's credit here, when I checked the Wikipedia page, it didn't give like any character description. It just had actor names, so which is a dumb way of doing a Wikipedia page. So
Yeah, it's not terribly detailed. So, we also got a scene in this bit where we see some military guys. They end up getting cornered and end up lighting up a bunch of zombies. And next we see of them, their jeep is getting used by a bunch of zombies who have stolen it. Because zombies are somewhat intelligent in this movie. They also have like a pretty neat scene where they're trying to contact some people over the ambulance radio, and somebody picks up. The zombies just and the zombie picks up on the other line. Is just like, "Oh, where are you? Where can we come find you?" And the guy's just like, "Come to the hospital." And they're like, "Oh yeah," but the doctor's just like, "Wait, hold on. Hey, sir, could you tell me who the president is?" And he's just like, "Truman." Who, for those of you who don't remember or know, Truman's the guy immediately after World War II.
okay,
Yeah. 44 to like, I think 48. I don't know if he got I can't remember if he got reelected. I think he got, yeah, he did. So
I
like
don't care
44 to 52.
how fucking intelligent you want to make zombies at this point in time. Sure, I'll give you a pass if you're like, yeah, they can drive jeeps because of like motor memory and stuff like that. But if you're gonna tell me that a zombie can tell you the fucking president's name and get on a phone, then I think you kind of lost the plot on what a zombie film is supposed to be about.
I mean,
So
yeah, these zombies are able to like play tricks on you. And this is also a callback to something that happened in the previous one where the zombies managed to ambush a bunch of police officers and or like ambush a ambulance and get on the ambulance radio of that ambulance are saying like, "Hey, could we get some police officers over here?" And then keep doing that for like the rest of the movie. And just steadily getting like a steady stream of like police cars and just like getting like two new brains to
it's
eat
like
every time they call somebody. And they do that like three
just
times.
ordering takeout at that point in time.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. It's a funny bit, and this kind of like
Okay.
shows the bit of the change of direction here because they've main characters have kind of like catching on to stuff that happened in the previous movie. These guys are a bit smarter. It does kind of do a bit of an advancement. But yeah, moving on. They come up with a plan while they were running around the city in the ambulance. They do run. They did manage to hit a zombie and send it into a big big electric sign. The zombie was thoroughly electrocuted and didn't get back up, which is the first time this has happened in the entire franchise in either of these movies. So this is actually a pretty big deal because like for the better part of 2 hours of Return of the Living Dead movies I've seen, this is the first time a zombie in this these two movies gets permanently put down without being like extremely cut up. So they
Mhm.
found a way to kill these zombies finally.
I guess maybe the idea of electricity around like the because like wouldn't electricity run into a lot of the same issues that they're like, well, why didn't I just use fire to destroy these zombies?
Well, I
Like,
don't know. It's
considering electricity causes severe burning as much as like burning does, right?
yeah, but I don't think quite as much. I think it's maybe it's also like burning up their bio. I don't know. It's I think it's not like as much gas getting out, but also it's kind of neat how this pulls off, because it's like, okay, this is a weakness, and sometimes these weaknesses are like kind of contrived, but like this is something that existed in the world before, but like it makes sense that it didn't come up in the last movie. Like you don't always have like a big electrocution thing handy. Like no zombies were ever like electrocuted in the last one.
Yeah, fair enough. Also, like, it's kind of ironic that early, like, when we did Victor Frankenstein, people were trying to bring people back to life using electricity, and now it's like the electricity is what kills these zombies in this film. So maybe it's a play on like that or something.
We're gonna be
Uh,
bringing them back to dead.
yeah, well, essentially, and like I don't know, the zombie apocalypse, like the zombie virus in this movie is kind of weird. So
Yeah, no, it's
hard
super
to like
different.
nail down everything because like they're technically dead except for the ones that were reanimated, and then if you're turned into a zombie, you slowly die and become a zombie. But
It has its own
I
feel.
don't know how much of your faculties are still in place
Yeah.
compared to other zombie movies where you're just like a massless horde that's like just
Mhm.
shuffling around, which is like my
Yeah.
preferred zombie. But
Mhm. Yeah, these are the smartest zombies out of any of the franchises I've covered for this.
yeah, like the only thing that I can really think of is like the zombies from I Am Legend, where they're still fairly intelligent and they're like using rudimentary like car traps and stuff like that. Um,
And technically those are vampires?
but yeah, I don't exactly know.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've watched I
Again,
Am Legend, but uh,
I've talked to Curtis about this. We're going to be doing, because there's some history there. We're going to be doing some stuff on that eventually when we run out of like zombie films. We're going to be touching on some Last Man on Earth concept stuff there for this, because that's there's some shared DNA there.
fair enough.
So anyway, our main characters decide to hijack a meat van and lure a bunch of zombies into the local power station and set up a big kill box. They have some time to do some setup, but before they entirely finish, one of the bullies, the reanimated bully zombie, who uh, who we had seen earlier, had reanimated and like killed his mom. Like that was kind of a neat thing. It's also one of the darker bits of the movie where you see like the kid die, which is kind of rough.
Yeah.
Again, not quite as rough as stuff in the last movie, but yeah. Anyway, this is yeah. We're gonna yeah. So the kid manages to crawl over the big gate, the big wire gate, and open up the electronic gate so that all the zombies can wander in. Everyone has to flee, and the three of them, the doc is staying behind to. He was gonna stay behind and flip the switch. The three of them get trapped in the back of the truck and also forget their walkie-talkie outside, so they can't contact the doctor and tell him to turn on the power and kill all zombies. So they solve this by having Jesse go through a little slot in the top of the this is like a cargo truck, and he wanders out a window at the top of the cargo truck and wanders into the cab of the truck. And what did I say his name was? Tom. I
Tom?
was close. Tom talks Jesse through driving this truck forward, and he drives the truck inside the power station, runs off, and goes to find the power switch for the power station because they had to turn it off to set all this up. He turns on the power, taking care of most of the zombies. Meanwhile, fleeing the bullies, who are now zombies. He ends up having to fight off the main bully. The doctor shows up in the nick of time to distract the bully, just long enough for Jesse to kick him into a big electrical tower that has fallen through the roof, killing them and sort of ending the plot. The army comes in and realizes, like, hey, we have a way to kill the zombies now. So they manage to let the heroes go. I don't know how this turns out. I like in the sequels yet, but I assume badly. I assume this doesn't mean they've solved this problem forever. But yeah, that's Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Yeah, so it's a lot more of a comedy this time, which again I didn't mind because I found the first one to be rather dark, perhaps too dark. So this was a little bit easier to stomach, and despite the fact they kind of like break off from the premise of the first one, that the zombies are invincible in this and you can't kill them, and despite the fact they've kind of abandoned that so early in the franchise, it does feel sort of earned, and it does make sense, which easily could have not been the case.
Yeah. You think at least one person would have tried, like, I don't know, like hooking a car battery up or something, like
Eh,
to a wire frame, or like zombie walking into an electric fence, which is probably more of an issue here in Saskatchewan than anything, but like Texas or
yeah, the first one took place in like a little bit of a smaller area. I think it took place over a couple blocks. There wasn't like a big electrical thing they could have shoved them into. It was kind of more of an industrial area they were in. So like a bunch of like warehouses, and there wasn't like a big power line. I guess if you had literally cut down a power line and throw them into that would have done it, but
which is really, really stupid because like I guess when it boils down to it, like we don't exactly know what type of zombie apocalypse could eventually happen. So the fact that we have all these like other plots for like zombie apocalypses, like yeah, people are bound to die because they're gonna try stuff that like work, or at least in the mythos work, and then figure out that eventually that yeah, that's not how these zombies actually work. Uh
yeah. And admittedly, this is
because
still a weakness for them that requires a lot of work. Like you need to like make like a special doohickey to make this convenient. Like how
yeah,
many things like throw I don't think a taser would do it.
no.
No. You need something like
At least not
way
the
yeah.
type of like handheld tasers. I think I think maybe if you're going with the like the taser guns, ooh, cattle prod.
Yeah, cattle I mean a cattle prod's supposed to be less than a taser, I think.
Oh wow, that's
Um
concerning.
well also like cows are
And we just
bigger.
give those to cops? Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. We're using like tasers on humans, and tasers are supposed to put out more energy than a cattle prod.
I I think I don't yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know any of that for sure.
I'm
Like all yeah.
95% certain. You got to be wrong about that.
Hold on.
You got to be wrong about that. There's no way they would be like, yeah, let's just give these to cops as an
I mean,
alternative force when like cops are notoriously known for police brutality.
I mean, okay, yeah. So a cattle prod, it's only meant to like hurt you. It's not supposed to like disable you. So it is less energy.
Huh? That's
Yeah,
weird.
because like a taser is meant to like debilitate you, which requires a lot more voltage.
Yeah, I guess you're not trying to put the cow down. Like if you're using a cattle prod, it's to uh,
No,
move
you're
it.
just trying to like get it to
Yeah.
move. And also like I've never used a cattle prod to be fair. I don't know how common they
Hmm.
actually are. Um
Yeah. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I don't know anyone I don't think I know anyone that uses an actual cattle prod. Because it's also like it also doesn't look good. Um,
Electric fence,
yeah, electric fence is
however.
different. Like electric fence is
Mhm.
something that like the animal touches it and it knows not to go through there. And like the animal is in full control of how much it touches the electric fence. The cattle prod is something you can hold against the animal, in theory.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, like yeah, because that again, the point of it's the same principle as barbed wire, where like it's only really going to hurt the animal if it like a tries to absolutely force its way through it, or if it like gets trapped in it. Like if you
Mhm.
get it, like it's just supposed to poke you. It's not doing enough to actually hurt you. And I think like the main way cattle gets through electric fences is like mostly like young calves, and they're kind of like wandering under it because they're like too small and they can
Yeah.
kind of just like also they're only touching one wire. That's actually one of the weird conundrums. You think it would be harder to keep the bulls in with the electric fence, but the full grown bulls, if they got to get through the electric fence, they got to touch all three wires or more wires if
Yeah,
you have
fair
more.
enough.
But the calf only touches one, if that
Only
even.
the most horniest of bulls will probably go through a whatchamacallit,
Oh,
but
I
also
mean,
probably not.
okay, so that's less of a matter of like them being like if a bull sees like something he likes, he will go break through stuff to get to it. Like a fence is not enough
Yeah.
to keep a bull away from like a barbed wire fence is not enough to it's also got a thing to do with proximity. Like
Yeah.
if it sees like a cow like a few miles away, not a big deal. If it sees a cow like a couple meter like a couple meters away, that's another thing. You don't want that. You need something heftier between them if that's the case.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing about like fences is that like the cows, if they really wanted to, could get through them. They're just like
Mhm.
A, not necessarily smart enough. B, it like unless you're like really trying hard, it's gonna be it's pretty uncomfortable to get through. And C, it's like that's where all the food is inside the fence most of the time, especially during winter. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, they don't necessarily want to wander off. Except in the summer, which like that's a whole different
So
thing
yeah,
because
I don't think
yeah,
there's a really good way to harness lightning at this point or electricity at this point besides yeah, just running them into a power grid or dropping power lines on them or
I suppose you could just like hook a cord right onto the transformer and like have some sort of like
mhm.
safety cable and do it like a fire hose or whatever.
And I mean, I guess if you're trying to like amplify the amount of like electricity going through these things' body, you could also soak them beforehand and then
Yeah,
like
that might help.
cause them to walk through an
Yeah, a bit of
electrified pool.
yeah, a bit of
But
water,
this
like
is
spray them
all
with water, and then yeah, I'm kind of thinking like imagine okay, so like you have your fire hydrant is like a portion of like the city water line that's like you're just a bit above a ground thing that's just like conveniently placed at particular locations for you to access a large amount of water if you need it. Same idea, but for power grid.
mhm,
Like come up with some
yeah.
deal. Yeah, just hook yourself onto the regular power, and as long as you're keeping power to that part of the city, you can pull it off and use that as a weapon.
If it's ever needed.
Yeah, which I mean, there's three more sequels, so I guess.
Yeah.
What do you give the movie, Cody?
But you'd think like people would but I guess I'm gonna give it okay. I was gonna say, like, unless like there's a massively like public opening up about this potential zombie threat that they just witnessed, which considering the military's involved is probably hushed up. So
Yeah,
like people don't know that this is going to be like solved or needed to uh, be utilized again to solve the zombie apocalypse potentially from happening. Um, but besides that, I think I've said my piece on the whole entire cure, which is kind of dumb. Um, yeah, I'm not going to give this very much high ratings. I probably will give it a little bit more than 5%. But not by a whole lot. I don't like my zombie movies. Like if I'm sitting down trying to find a horror movie, I'm not gonna watch a horror comedy film. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want my horror films to be at least a little dark. So
Yeah.
with like maybe a couple of funny like moments in it.
Yeah, maybe
Like
check out the first one on Tubi. It's on Tubi for free.
yeah,
Two's not for free on Tubi
fair
for
enough.
whatever reason. 1 and 3 are on Tubi, but 2 is not.
Yeah.
I have no idea why that is.
Huh.
But yeah, you might
I
enjoy the
think
first one a bit more.
that's fair. Yeah, I should probably be looking at a lot more films
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure like we as a podcast we have Shutter too, and it's like going into October. So
I think I've
no,
I think I've taken my credit card off the Shutter. You can
okay,
try
fair
it,
enough.
but I
But
think I've
like,
taken my credit
there's
card
so
off
many.
that. I wasn't using it.
Yeah, that's fair. Uh, there's so many good like early '90s like horror films or '80s horror films even that I
Mm-hmm.
haven't really watched. Like The Lost Boys. I want to watch
Oh, I've
like
kind
the
of wanted to
first
watch
couple
that
of
too.
like the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Mm-hmm.
The what?
I've kind of wanted to watch Lost
The
Boys
Lost
too.
Boys or
Yeah,
yeah, I've never seen it.
yeah,
And yeah, like the early Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff like that that I haven't seen. And I mean, it's going into October, so I might as well just like commit.
yeah, yeah. This was a nice little start for October stuff. But yeah, what were you giving the movie? At
Yeah, as
the
for like
score.
yeah, we're gonna give it like a 10. Not out of 10, but like 10%.
Oh,
I'm gonna double the Rotten Tomato score of it.
okay,
But I
yeah,
wouldn't go, and that's generous to say the least. I like some of the special effects in it. Like at one point in time, they had a zombie completely cut in half, and like the top half is still moving, and the bottom half is still moving, and the zombies talking and stuff. So that was kind of cool. It's not something that you normally see in zombie films.
yeah,
Especially, I think the zombie's brain was damaged at that point, so completely subverts the like zombie genre at that point. So I like it for that.
yeah. I'm
And
a light 6.
okay, so like 60%.
Yeah, like I kind of like it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, nothing too special, but I think I gave the last one a 7. I can't remember. All right.
I mean, the last one sounds a lot more interesting, and I mean, so does the upcoming two.
Curtis has seen 3 because
Okay.
Curtis accidentally watched 3 instead of 1 when we were doing the first one.
Oh,
Yeah, so yeah, stay tuned in the month of October for at least Diary of the Dead, probably or like at least Army of the Dead, probably Diary of the Dead. We're probably going to
yeah,
get to
like
Zombie 4 this year if I can help it.
fair enough.
But yeah, see you soon. We're going to stop for the night. Goodbye.